fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, welcome to episode number 33. Let's go. So, I know it's still triathlon season, but it seems like I'm hearing a lot of the gravel in the news lately, Danny.
So, gravel's in the air.
Yeah, it is. It's almost fall gravel season, but we'll get to the news about Steamboat and Gravel Worlds and and then some other stuff that we're going to talk about. But how'd you like the gravel clinic this weekend?
It was a nice turnout. It was a really nice turnout. For one, I'm surprised many people could find Camden Point on a map because it's kind of one of those places that it's north of Kansas City, and unless you've been there, you've probably never heard of it.
Yeah.
And it's
in between Kansas City and St. Joe.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's got some nice gravel areas tucked away in there. It's like so Interurban Road is one of the more popular road bike paths or routes in Kansas City. It's relatively flat. It's an old railroad trail or railroad used to go through there, and so the grade is super easy and nice long straightaway with very little traffic or anything. So a lot of people go up there to ride, just get their casual ride in or do a lot of TT training. And but man, you go very far off of Interurban Road, you can find yourself in some chunky and steep hills, and it gets to like you get out there. And I heard somebody at the clinic go, "This looks like it might be Unbound out here." I'm like, it's pretty close. It makes a really good training ground. So yeah.
They were asking me if I could find any more hills, and I'm like, I can just hold on.
Yeah.
The
funny part is on the hills, like we didn't even go to the hilly section. Like we just could have went a few more, maybe a few more miles north, and we could have really found all the hills. So
yeah. So, they were asking us too, because, it's a little bit of a drive for us. And so we were, we drove there and we rode with everybody, and it was about I would say about an hour ride. And so we were going to ride a little extra, and they were like, "Hey, is the next part the part that you're going to go ride, is it any easier?" I was like, "Oh no, it's harder than what we did." Like I gave you I found the easiest way. We had to climb one kind of long hill, but it was at the end. And it's pretty relentless out there. And I was talking to Serena, and I was like, sometimes we take for granted the fact that we have all these steep climbs with gravel on them. Like this is much guff that I give Missouri, that we do have a really good training facility
we do
in our backyard right here. The heat, the humidity, the gravel. The only thing we're missing is just some really long climbs to do intervals on.
No, I thought the clinic turned out nice. There was a nice participation. We had we had all levels of skill and talent represented, from the most beginner level all the way up to more advanced, and folks that you could tell had ridden a bike many times before. And I thought, you did a great job explaining some of the ins and the outs of, some of the topics. I know we covered a lot around tire pressures and kind of, things that a lot of people just take for granted and maybe don't really think a lot about. And really, it's one of the things that can make a gravel race or a gravel ride more enjoyable. And if you don't have the right tire pressure, I mean, we've been out there, but we've all been beginners once. You got there with the wrong tire pressure, and how uncomfortable and how quickly do you want to get away from gravel when you're bouncing around all over the place and you can't.
Yeah, when you're riding on a thinner tire or like a skinny skinny width tire, and it's just pumped up, and you're bouncing around, and you're like, man, I don't know how people do this for
do this for
12 hours. I can't even do this for 40 minutes. This is horrible.
So it was great turnout. I think my favorite part, aside from just getting to know a few new faces and names, and I think one of my favorite parts was was towards the end when we were talking about, because we got a couple more clinics coming up here. We'll maybe talk about that here in a minute, middle of the month and end of the month. But we talked about our Wednesday night no drop group rides, and somebody's like, well, how fast do you ride on those? I'm like, well, it's no drop.
Yeah.
But do you ride fast? Like, well, we can.
We can.
How fast do you want to ride?
Yeah, it's like, how fast do you want to go? Like, but the intention is, and I speaking of the no drop ride, it's like, people don't understand it's no drop. Yeah. So just like, we're not there to race it.
Nope.
I mean, if you want a good race ride, I know like 4 or 5 of them that happen during the week. You can go and ride with those guys. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not that's not what I'm about. I would rather race people on the race course, and I don't need to race them in the group ride. That's I just don't need to.
We do have a little fun on the group ride.
Yeah, we do. We do have a lot of fun, but we play bikes. But like for the most part, we're just trying to foster the community a little bit. We're not here to, by all means, if you want to go out and, race us, for sure.
Yeah.
Let me know. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean,
no problem.
And I got no problem if you end up beating me. There's a good chance you will. It's okay.
I've
been beat by a lot of people.
I've been beat.
I'll be beat by a lot more.
I've been racing bikes many years, and I've only been on the podium a handful of times. So there's a lot of people that can beat me.
But all I can say is you better show up with the right equipment, and you better show up with your A game, because if you announce it that you want to race, the speed bike's coming out.
Yeah, I'm not making it easy. I don't.
So anyway, no, but it was again, I think the clinic was a great time. I hope that the folks that were able to attend, I hope they go off and tell maybe some of their friends. I'd love to see the group grow, maybe another 5 or 10 people each of the next 2 times. I mean, we had a great turnout, and it was more than I expected, and I think it just goes to show that there's a lot of opportunity, especially in this part of the city. There's a lot of opportunity for and folks that just don't know much about gravel or what it really is. They might recreationally ride a bike, but I really hope that it gets more people into the gravel side of things. I know a lot of people are just afraid to get out on the road because of the safety concerns. Yep. And we've always talked about how much we like gravel because of the challenge of it, and because it's just constant resistance, and it's mentally and physically more demanding. But you can also use it just to have a great time. You can get out and just casually ride, and you don't have to go kill yourself to do it. And generally speaking, it is what I would say. It is a more safe option than just going out to your standard roads out in your neighborhood, or because you never know. I mean, you can get into a busy section real fast. I mean, there aren't many areas, at least in our part of Kansas City, that are like interurban where you can just go for 15, 20 miles and maybe only see 2 or 3 cars. So yeah, it was a great time. I'm really looking forward to the next one. I hope to see a lot more people there.
Yeah, if you guys are listening to this, we're having gravel clinics. They're totally free. The only thing you have to do is you have to listen to me talk about some topic for probably like 15 minutes. So if you're already listening, then you already know what I sound like. So like you're already bought in. But
and then we got a timeshare. I mean, a property.
And then we have this condo that we want to go in on. No, it's but it's a different route. I have, there's plenty of routes out there. The 15th, it's going to be the 15th of September and the 29th of September. Yeah. They're both on Sundays. They're at 10 a.m. and, we're just going to be out there. I don't know what the next topic's going to be. This last one that we had was just on sealant and tubeless tires and tire pressure. Mm-hmm. And then just picking the right kind of tires, and it's totally free. I'm not, if the only thing I ask is, you listen to me for about 15 minutes, and then
good attitude,
good attitude, and then we just go and we talk about whatever you want, and then we go ride. And usually there's 2 rides. There's one that's going to be about 40-ish minutes, 50 minutes, depending on how fast you ride, and then of course there's a longer course. Yeah. So if we have more people that want to do, either one of the course, we can split up, or we can all ride together and just go from that. So But on to basically the news from the last couple weeks, man. Yeah. I don't know if you heard about Steamboat gravel, but a lot of people have been protesting this gravel ride in Colorado, in Steamboat, Colorado. So
It's kind of odd because it's, Colorado is one of the most bike friendly states in the country, and to have them protesting, I think it's not really new though. I think there's been issues in the past with Steamboat. I mean, I don't follow it super close, but I do know that I remember this coming up last year as well. Seems like there's a lot of complaints from locals, both between just all the bike traffic, because it's a massive event. There's a ton of bike traffic.
I mean, it's so. I've been thinking about trying to get into it, but every time I go to a register, it's already sold out.
Yeah.
I mean, it sells out within seconds.
Yeah. And then I think a lot of the complaint is, with all those bikes and all those people, not only does it kind of clog the roads up for periods of time, which I think most people can get around that. I think there's been issues. I don't know if it was an issue this year, but in the past, issue with trash on the course, and I'm sure the promoters try to go around and clean up afterwards, and the volunteers do, but you know how it is. I mean, people, whether, you'd really like to think people aren't intentionally throwing trash out, but stuff slips out of your pocket. You can't, you're trying to jam it in there on a bumpy gravel road. I get it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of complaints with stuff like that. And it just seems like each of the last couple years anyway, I've heard about some complaints up there. So that's too bad. I mean, I don't know if they can find a happy medium, but yeah. So.
Yeah, my feeling on it, and I think it's a little bit different in Colorado because it's really just there's one road. Mm-hmm. Whereas like here in Kansas and Nebraska and Iowa and, parts of Missouri outside of Kansas City, everything's built on a grid. So if you're like, oh, the road's clogged, I'll just go around and just go my other way to wherever I need to go. I think though in Colorado, it's more like, this is the only gravel road or the only road that's there, that they're on. It's not like they get, a pick of, 15 different gravel roads they can ride on. The course doesn't change. It's been the same, year after year. And so I think they're just like, you know what, you guys have other stuff you can ride, like, or other places you can ride. And I think they're more about, I feel like the public's not supportive behind it because the fact that it's like, it clogs up their road, it, cyclists litter, but they don't, we don't mean to. And then plus, like, we just take a whiz right on the side of the road or nobody wants to see that, it's just a different vibe for sure.
It just seems odd that's the place that you seem to hear all the complaints about. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's an issue and it's just not hitting anybody's radar, but I don't remember that at any of the gravel races that we've done locally, and I don't think it was a problem at Unbound or ever been a problem.
So the last thing that, and I could never verify this, it was just I heard rumblings that there was some complaint from the people that live in Emporia that it's getting big, like it's getting over capacity, like idea that they need to keep the numbers in control. And it was just like there was just a lot of people, and they were just like that. It's getting like they were at a point like they like the event, they like Unbound there, but they, from what I heard from other people is that it was just too much. Like it was getting to be like a little bit more than it usually is, and it's being a little bit much. So
maybe the city's infrastructure can't quite support, that much surge coming into the city. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, like, I mean, you talk to people, all across Kansas, they love the gravel races, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, most of the race promoters give back to the community, and it just, you get people that share your state and, love it. I don't know. Maybe it's, a Colorado thing that they're just like, go somewhere else or something. So,
yeah, I don't know. That's too bad though. Hopefully they can, figure something out with the locals, but, I mean, it gets too out of hand and they'll be getting a lot of pressure to shut it down, which is what nobody wants. So,
right.
Yeah.
So the next thing I got here is Gravel Worlds in Nebraska.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I got, so I don't know, I watched all of Gravel Worlds on Sunday when it was, and man, We should have signed up for that hot race. Looked like we were missing out.
Yeah.
Those guys, 120 something miles, and it was already like, I don't know. They raced it, and it just was hot. It looked like hell on earth for sure.
Yeah, there's a reason that we, I guess maybe we're the outliers. There's a reason we put the gravel bikes, back on the wall for a couple of months here. Yeah. And we get back on the road bikes or TT bikes. I mean, that airflow keeps you a little bit more comfortable. Yeah. And I don't know, not much worse being on a gravel road when it's 95 degrees outside going, slower than normal, and then having the heat just reflecting off the gravel, it just like baking you from both sides, like top and bottom,
Yeah, because I mean, I know people think, when they think of Kansas, Nebraska, they think, oh, it's flat, it's probably really windy, and like, so like, what are you guys complaining about? And it's like, it's only windy in the spring, fall, and winter.
Right.
In the summer, it's stagnant air, and it's just hot air on your face. And it's the worst. But yes, come out and hang out with us and ride gravel with us in the summer. Yeah,
you sell that really nice hot air on your face.
Just hot, blow dryer air on your face.
Yeah, Missouri Department of Tourism is calling soon. So get you advertised for them. That's great. Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, it's the worst. The summers are the worst. But that's why we don't ride gravel in the summer. Like we ride it all spring and fall long. But man, you cannot ride it. I mean, you could. I know I've ridden in the summer.
A lot of people do. A lot of our friends do.
When we have to ride in the summer, we usually get up at like 5 a.m. before the sun starts coming up, and then you're riding when it's the coolest part of the day, and you're trying to be done before noon because it just gets wicked hot. So besides these guys riding, in the crazy heat of Nebraska, which I think it was like 102 that day. It was like the weekend was like, it was hotter there than it was here. It was like 97 here, which miserable. Is just miserable. There's some dudes, like I'm going to call them teenagers to young adults, but they were basically, Nebraska isn't flat like Kansas or like most of the place here. It's rolling hills. So what do you do on a weekend when you got dad's truck and you go and get a couple of your friends and you start Duke of Hazarding, jumping some rollers. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I guess they this happened in the lead pack of the race. They some kids were, young adults, kids, whatever, were Dukes of Hazarding some rollers and ended up clipping a rider and just basically, luckily, I think he sustained just some minor injuries. Like he's not like, in the ER or anything, but basically like clapped his bike. Oh yeah. Tore the whole front end off, broke it all that way. So
yeah, those 18-pound bikes against 2,000-pound vehicles, it's not a good matchup.
Yeah, it's not a good matchup. So, and me and you were talking about this before is like, is gravel going pro? Do we need to close down the roads for gravel, for these pro gravel guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I heard it like on other podcasts, the whole thing is that you ask any race promoter and it's like, we're promoting gravel for everybody to ride gravel. And, and everybody rides gravel and we're all in this together. And it's a ride. It's an adventure. It's not a race. It's a, gravel, the spirit of gravel is we're all in this together and, it is open road. So you guys, that, stuff can happen. So pay attention.
Yeah. Well, I look at it this way. So, whether you agree with it or not, every single race that am aware of that's a gravel race occurs on open roads, and the promoters are very clear in the pre-race materials and in any of the rider meetings or anything like that. They're very clear about these roads are open to traffic. Obey all traffic signals and all traffic laws. Yet, myself included, I know you and we were talking about this before, is, we have a tendency, in gravel, you're always looking for the best line in gravel. And sometimes that's in the other lane. just taking the chance, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know
And
this. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, and it's not like gravel is a 4-lane highway.
Right.
It is.
Yeah. It's
gravel is
yeah.
gravel is basically a little bit wider than one car.
Yeah.
And there's usually just 2 tracks that go down the middle of the road. And if there's somehow happens to be another car that shows up, one of the cars pulls over, lets the other guy. That's how gravel works.
Yeah.
Like it's not a 4-lane highway. It is.
Right.
It's a small street. I get it.
Yeah.
And so but like we've been on gravel where, we're going all over the road trying to find the best line, not, not necessarily the right, staying to the right. So
yeah, and oftentimes that happens climbing a hill, and you can't see over the hill, just like an oncoming car can't see over the hill. And I don't know the circumstances of what happened in gravel worlds, and only those involved do. But I'll tell you, like, it's at the end of the day, you're told you should obey the traffic laws, and I know we don't, and so you're kind of putting everything on the line when you decide to go that path, and I get it, because the question is, well, should the race promoters close the roads? Well, maybe. I mean, that if they can, I think that would be great. But I think if you do, you're probably not going to make a lot of friends either. Because like you said, there's in many parts of the country, there are only there's only one gravel road for many, many miles. So the option to shut down the road just isn't there. I think that, I said it earlier, a lot of us get to gravel because it gets us away from the road, and we think that we're inherently safer. And in many cases we are. The risk is lower, but there's still risk. And I think that's what people tend to forget, is they think there's safety in the gravel, and that you can just go out there and just be all over the road, and you can't. And I mean, we had it happen last year at a race, where we were rolling up on that stop sign and we didn't see anything immediately. And typically in a gravel road, you just kind of roll through the stop sign. Yeah. And here comes a freaking big truck and a horse trailer just hauling through that.
Yeah. They must've been doing 50 on a perpendicular gravel road. And just like me and Serena almost met Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and the thing was you really couldn't see them, because
I'm usually like one of my tips for staying safe out on these roads is not listening to music, or not, so you can hear these, I didn't hear this guy. Yeah. I mean, that's how fast he was. Yeah.
And I remember this because I was behind you guys. I looked to the right to see, and I barely saw him out of the corner of my eye, because the cloud of dust that kicks up with gravel, it blended into the horizon. So you really couldn't see him because it was a little bit cloudy that day, and all that dust just blended right in. And so anyway, having been there firsthand and kind of seeing how quickly something like that can go down, I totally get it. That something like this could have happened, especially if you've got people that are, driving on backcountry roads and getting a little out of hand. And 99.9% of the time, it's just probably them on the road, and there's no harm. And it's the only people they're going to put at risk is themselves. And, but in this case, that wasn't really what happened. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that, I think we have a tendency to overstate how safe we are because we're on a gravel road, and that's just a really bad place to be, because you start assuming safety, and that's usually when you end up finding trouble. So
yeah, it's just one of those things that I don't, there's no easy answer, I think, these, especially with these younger bike riders and stuff, gravel, especially the American gravel scene, is just, it's the thing to do. It's basically for these guys, it's their way to get,
notoriety,
to get more out of cycling, right? Mm-hmm. You can't, I don't know if you've looked around, but there's not too many crit races going on. There's a monthly crit series here in Kansas City, that's put on, but that's the only one, and it's only 3 or 4 races. And then you have a couple in St. Louis and stuff like that. The riding scene for a road is a little bit better in St. Louis, but still it's not crazy. But I mean, there's hardly any road stage races anymore, or even USAC road rides anymore. So, gravel's it. So if you want to ride your bike and you want to race competitively, for these guys, these kids, I'm going to call them kids because they're basically younger than I am.
Yeah.
There's nobody racing on, pro gravel that's 45 years old. So
Right.
like they're all freaking kids to me. Like it's the only way for them to, kind of earn a living if they want to pursue, cycling as a a way of income. So I do feel that it's I wish there was, the promoters did a little bit more with, of course, I don't know how much they did at Gravel Worlds. Maybe they handed out flyers to everybody. Maybe the kids just didn't pay attention to the signage that was going. They're like, bike race, what's a gravel race? Like, what are we doing? So it just could just be one of those things. But again, like you say, and like I say too, it's like all this stuff is on open roads. I've been at a race where the leaders got stuck at a stop sign trying to cross the highway, and I caught back up to him and I was like, nice, let's go. The race is on again.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's part of the gamble of jumping off off the front. So I don't know.
Or 2 years ago we had, Unbound, and we got the train came.
Yeah.
And then we all raced to the mud.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
We all had a full-on race for 5 miles until we had to walk 3 of it.
Yeah, that was nice. But,
so great.
Yeah. So I just don't think there's really a good answer here, because I know in a lot of the local events, the directors here that know the community really well, like, they'll find the ways to post it in the common community areas, and then they'll also put out flyers, like run flyers to the houses along the route, so people know. And they do that weeks in advance, typically, to try to give as much notice to the local community as possible, so that hopefully 2 things. One is they understand what's coming, and they can work around the inconvenience of what's about to hit them. But then also, hopefully, it just helps them be a little bit safer and just keeps the awareness up. And yeah, again, don't know the circumstances of Gravel World, so hopefully, everybody's okay that's involved. And I'm sure those young adults that were driving probably got a life lesson right there, and probably hopefully avoided any serious trouble. But hopefully they learned a good lesson. And I think for those of us that race these events, you can talk to the directors about, hey, what does it take to close these down and close the race course down and all that. But I think it's going to be case by case. You're going to be real lucky if you can even get I don't think you'll get much community support trying to shut down a bunch of gravel roads. I just don't see that happening. And, so it just becomes a gamble, which you put, to your point, a lot of these races are putting so much money on the line, and there's more and more. So anytime that reward is high enough, somebody's willing to take a bigger risk to get that. And that's basically what's happening. And I don't know, maybe it's just the age in me, but a couple $1,000s of race winnings isn't worth my life. So, and I get it. These guys are trying to make a living, and they're trying to, maybe forge their career, but just don't think it's worth that. So, yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, and then my last little bit of news is the tragic loss of Columbus Blue Jackets forward. I'm gonna pronounce his name wrong, I'm sure. It is Johnny Goudreau and his brother Matthew. So they were hit by a drunk driver on the road in New Jersey. They were riding their bikes. So the reason I bring up the NHL is my kids play hockey. I love hockey. Hockey is what I love. You guys love football. Yeah. I love hockey.
I hear you.
I love myself a lot of hockey. So, and there's a lot of crossover in, you have, stock car drivers, you have Formula One drivers that ride bikes, you have, NFL players that ride bikes. You have, Conor McGregor who rides bikes, if I can talk right. So, I just think that it's, the thing is that, and I say it to everybody too, is like, I'm protected on my bike by, millimeter thick piece of Lycra.
Yeah.
In your car, you're protected by 2 tons worth of steel and plastic.
Yeah.
So it's like, who's going to win that?
Mm-hmm.
And we've had ourselves, some close
Sure.
passes on, heck, we were
We had
riding
one
on
last
Sunday.
night. Yeah, Sunday.
And then we had, last night, I think he thought he was 3 feet, but
Yeah.
I was just, and the thing is like, how far is 3 feet? And I think I wish drivers would know is this, it's not that you're passing close, it's the speed differential that you pass me.
Yeah.
So if you pass me, you could pass me right next to me if you're going basically a mile or two faster than me, and you just go right past me. I can totally handle that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a big deal. But if you're going 25 miles faster than I am and you pass me, the amount of wind that comes off your car and pushes me, like, I'm a bigger dude.
Yeah.
Like, I'm one of the big guys out there. So like, I'm going to get blown around, and I'm just going to, I'm going to be upset because you basically assaulted me with the wind air off your car because you passed me fast. Now, some people just pass, they give a little bit more than 3 feet or whatever. And then we had a guy, last night at our group ride, just give us a little toot toot. And just let us know that we were over there, and we all kind of got out of the way.
Yeah.
It's not, I wish drivers would understand that I'm not here to inconvenience you, or, I drive my car too. And, I get stuck behind bicyclists too. It's a thing, but it's not, my 10 seconds of inconvenience is not worth, like shoving this cyclist into the ditch.
Right.
Right. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I just bring up the NHL stuff, because these guys are kids, man. They were 27. Again, they're younger than I am.
Sure.
25, 27. Started their career in the NHL. I do like the Blue Jackets. They're one of my favorite East Coast teams. Yeah. So, besides Boston, but I always liked them. I like Tortorelli when he coached them. I thought he was great, and now he coaches for a different team. So I just,
careful, we're gonna have a hockey podcast.
I know. So the deal is there's two things that I really love, and it's cycling. Well, it's three things. It's cycling and triathlon, so endurance sports.
Sure.
So I will fangirl about that, and then of course hockey. Like, I will fangirl over that stuff too. I just love hockey. I never got a chance to play it when I was a kid. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my kids play it, and I just love every minute they're on the ice. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, so that'll bring us into our next topic, I guess, unless you have anything to.
Well, no, I think I know you kind of highlighted, or it's a low light, but I mean, you kind of highlighted the loss in the NHL, and I mean, look, we know it. We saw it happen. Actually, I think earlier this year there was there've been a couple of bicycle deaths that have been in the news. That have made the news, and so it's not like they don't happen anywhere else. I mean, obviously what happened to the two brothers happens all over the country, and it's terribly sad. We got some friends in Florida that one of their training partners was hit last year. It's like, if you know a cyclist, then you know somebody, or they know, or one of your cyclist friends probably knows somebody that's been either had a super, super close call, or actually been involved in an accident, or know somebody that's been killed. And it's terribly, like, we don't like to talk about that stuff. We don't like to think about it. But it is a reality, and it is part of the risk of riding out on the open road, and kind of what we started with. We gravitate to gravel thinking it's safer, and in many ways it is, but don't ever assume that's safety. And so it takes us into the next topic about what are some of the things that you can do to be safer on the road and on gravel. But we'll start with the road.
Yeah. So one thing that I always say on gravel or on road. So on the road is, when you're even regardless if you're in a bike lane or you're on the road, you need to pretend like you're a car. And so you need to act like a car. You need to signal when you're turning, signal when you're stopping. You need to signal, if you're doing anything weird, or anything other than just propelling yourself forward. Mm-hmm. So if you need to take up space because the road is, there's a bunch of potholes on one side, then take up the road. Right. You're basically a vehicle on the road. So then you can be seen, and you're not trying to shimmy yourself over to the very edge of the bad road, and then you're swerving out because there's a pothole. The cars in front of you are just like, I'm just going to keep driving because I don't know what's going on. So, that, I think predictability for sure on the road. And then like when when you're riding on a bike path, consider yourself a pedestrian. So when you come to a street, stop. And either slow roll across on the crosswalk, or you walk your bike across. You're not a vehicle when you're on a pedestrian path. You're a pedestrian. So, these cars aren't going to stop for you. They don't care.
They won't. No.
Yeah. So,
well, I think you bring up a good point on the be seen part. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I can be seen. I've got a flashing light on my bike, or I'm wearing a bright kit, or, whatever the case may be. And the interesting part is a lot of the neon kits that you see, like the bright neon green, are actually not the easiest thing you can see when you're a driver. I mean, they do look brighter. I mean, we all acknowledge I can just stare at a neon green jersey and see it better than something else. But actually, white seems to be the color that stands out the most. I think is what studies have shown. But you spend all this time saying, oh, I've got all this gear that helps me to be seen, but then you don't be seen. And what that really means when you're riding is just what you said, like treat yourself like a vehicle, but also know when to take over the lane. And when we talk about this like in motorcycle safety, because I used to ride motorcycles a lot more before I was riding.
Before you dumped all your money into cycling.
Right? So
and now your bikes cost more than the motorcycle.
No, I still got a motorcycle. Like, why did I give up the motor to use my legs? It doesn't make any sense. What was I thinking?
Stupid.
What was I thinking? But it's like you want to be seen. So, like you said, I mean, don't try to skirt over to the side of the road and make yourself as small as possible in the lane when it's not, especially when it's not safe for a car to pass. Like, move to the middle of the lane so that car understands it is not safe to pass. Because we saw this Sunday, we had three people in our group that all gave hand signals for the car behind to stop, and it was a truck pulling a trailer of all things. And rather than taking our hand signal, he just flew right by us and ran a girl off the road. I mean, fortunately she slowed down and stopped, but he ran her off the road. Right. Yeah. And then there was a second time, just 5 minutes down the road, and did it right in front of a police officer. And the police officer didn't do anything. Yeah. And so now we could have, if looking back, we probably should have moved over to the middle of the road because it wasn't safe for him to pass. And then guess what? He wouldn't have even attempted, most likely. Yeah. Because he knows he has to go fully over into the other lane, and he's not going to do that around a corner. So I think it's really important. It's like, not just be seen, but then make sure you're seen, like make yourself seen. And I know it takes a lot of experience, I think, to have the courage to ride to the middle of the lane when it's not, because everybody, I think my worst nightmare as a cyclist is getting hit from behind. You can't see it coming. There's no reaction at all. And we have all the radar lights and fancy stuff, and that's great. But I mean, all you hear is the beep. You don't know if that car is actually slowing down or going to stop or not. Yeah. I think it's just really important. Like, use the lane to your advantage, and really know when to take over the lane and when to give the lane up to let cars go by. So I think that can go a long way to help people on the road.
Yeah, I do like, especially if your state has reporting or any of that stuff, you can definitely, if you have a rear facing camera or even a front mounted camera, you can, these things have cameras on them. They have radars, they beep and let you know, that cars are coming. They give you color coding, whether they're coming fast or slow. The thing is like, they're not foolproof. Right. I've been snuck up on by cars and being like, whoa, where'd you come from? That's right. Like, especially out, when you're out riding in rural areas, they'll pick up the tractor, but they're not going to pick up the two cars behind it until they're right next to you. Mm-hmm. So, just nothing solves that problem other than, turning over your shoulder, looking, being aware of your surroundings, looking around. Some people use like a mirror on their helmet or on their handlebars or something like that. That's always good. Definitely have something that the more aware that you can be around your surroundings, the more you can see what's going on. So like when I don't know if you noticed this, but whenever I hear the beep go off, I always turn around and look at the car, and I feel like I don't get close past as much as when I let them know that I know that they're coming.
I know you're there. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're there.
I know exactly what you mean. Yep.
And it's probably just me being mental, but I think it's also too like, hey man, I know you're there. I know you're coming. Like, I'm not trying to be a complete jerk.
Right.
And take up the road, and and we do things to minimize ourselves, or we ride tighter as a group when cars are coming. But like if the car was already going to be an a-hole, and then you turn around and look at him and go like, bro, I know you're coming, like do the right thing because I'm paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, so. I do the same thing instinctively. I know exactly what you're saying. I tend to. And I think I found that when you make eye contact with somebody, if you can make eye contact in that brief second, two things. One is eye contact does not mean that they actually see you.
Yep.
So you should never, and I say this because anytime you see a car in the oncoming lane that wants to turn, they're turning left typically to turn in front of you, or there's a car on your right that is turning left also to go out in front of you. Just because you make eye contact with them does not mean they see you and they're going to stop. I still will ride with my hands covering the brakes every time I see a car coming where they could possibly turn in front of me, and whether they see me or not, I'm ready to grab a handful of brakes if I have to, because I've seen it happen too many times on a motorcycle where you're on a profile motorcycle that's twice the size of a bicycle easily, in terms of like the space, and so you would think they see you and they don't, and they just pull right in front of you. And so I think it's really important, like, ride defensively in that case and be ready for, just assume they're going to do something ridiculous. But if you can make that little bit of eye contact, or at least, like you said, turn so they can kind of see some of your face, it almost like humanizes you a little bit. So you're not just a block in the road. Now you're actually a person that they see, that they recognize as a person. So it just kind of, gets them back in their little bit of reality, instead of just, oh, you're just a nuisance to me, I'm going to pass you quickly. And we've seen just so many close calls over the years. We've been very fortunate not to have anything, knock on wood, nothing's come out of that. But there's been some real jerks out there for sure. So.
Yeah, and like I say, coming from New Mexico, there was a lot more crappy drivers for sure. There's a lot more jerkheads out there.
Every state has them. Don't worry.
Yeah. Here, I think we get maybe one a month. There it would be like I'd get one about every ride.
Yeah.
There'd be somebody just rolling coal or or giving me their favorite finger.
Sure.
Just all that kind of crap. So I think the mentality out here, but the other part that I would say too, a way to be safer on the road is ride roads that are traveled by people who ride bikes.
Yeah.
So the times that we usually get into trouble is when we're off of the main riding area. Yeah. Where people don't tend to ride. Like, I think we're one of the few people that continue to ride on some of these other like less traveled roads in rural Missouri. So yeah, we tend to get a little bit more of a dust up there, but even then, most people are pretty sympathetic. But yeah, when you're riding, like if we were to ride downtown, like I would ride on roads that were traveled by other cyclists. I wouldn't trust, and I say that saying like, don't trust the local infrastructure.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're planning a ride or you're new to cycling or anything like that, like don't trust the fact that, that they say that this road is a bike route. And, they say one of the busiest highways that we have up here in the Northland is a bike route. And I wouldn't ride my bike on there if you paid me.
Right.
Like I would be like, there's not enough money in the world. And
well,
they're like,
the irony is there's no shoulder. There's no shoulder there.
There's no shoulder, and these guys are going 65 miles an hour.
The speed limit is 55. It's rolling hills at that.
Yeah.
Speed limit is 55, and I do this because I drive it too. And to keep the pace on that highway, you've got to do 65.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're getting honked at from
But
behind.
no, you look at any city plan, you look at any bike route, it's a straight up bike route.
Yeah.
It's like a shared use road. Are you like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, no, somebody's probably dead up there for sure. Like, yeah. So, the best thing you can do, like for that kind of stuff is use, Garmin heat maps, Strava heat maps, get in touch with your local bike shop and just be like, hey man, where do people ride here? This is the type of riding I like doing, where can I go to ride? And we had a couple of these things back in New Mexico, like where we would ride on certain roads and it was relatively okay. Like there's big shoulders, so it wasn't too bad, but I think that's a big thing. Don't trust your local state government to have the best idea for you to ride your bike. The best thing you can do is talk to some locals and stuff like that.
Completely agree. Yeah, and then just on the gravel side, just real quick, because I think it goes for both road and gravel. So I'll start off with this one real quick. You talk about the use the heat maps and use Strava, use Garmin, and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the things that the probably the best piece of equipment I ever bought was the radar light. And I know you've got one of the older models that still is kicking, and it's actually I think it's better than some of the newer ones because I think it's a little more sensitive at times. But
yeah, the newer ones pick me up.
Yeah, right.
Riding up on your wheel.
Yeah.
But the old one just picks up any kind of reflective thing.
Yeah.
So it'll give you a false positive if you go by a stop sign that's facing the other way.
Yeah.
And it lights up just right. But it doesn't the thing that annoys me about the newer ones is like when I'm riding up to you, it beeps.
Yeah.
Yours beeps because I'm riding up to you, or when you're trying to ride up to me, it beeps, and I'm like, is that and we have the saying like, like, oh, it's just me, because we've the person behind's already checked that there's no cars coming, but then you hear the beep and you get so accustomed to kind of turning around and you like don't want that person to move from their line because it's already slippery gravel anyways, and you're just kind of like, hey, it's me, I'm coming up. It's like, don't worry about that,
So. But yeah, I think if you haven't already bought a radar light, they're cheaper now than they ever have been. And I would say whether it's the Garmin or I think there's a couple different brands out there now, but it's the best investment you could possibly buy to help protect yourself. And then now, of course, they got the ones with the camera built in, which I personally prefer because I like to be able to go back and, if we've had close calls, I can pull the license plate and, not that our county sheriff does a lot about it, but at least, you have the opportunity to report something, especially if, heaven forbid they actually hit you or something. And, at least there's a chance to catch the person that did it. But I think those radar lights are quite honestly, it's like if you're not riding with one, you just get one.
Yeah, it's one of the best investments, and it's saved my bacon so many times. The fact that sometimes you can't hear cars coming up behind you, and it's
especially
like
hybrids.
Yeah, especially hybrids or Teslas. I can't hear, like I used to be like on these county roads, I can hear a V8 from, I don't know, like 7 miles away. Like I'll be looking around going like, and I'm sure I look like a complete goofball, just, looking around, looking like, they're like, what's going on? What's going on up there? What do you got up there, killer? What are you tracking something? What's going on?
Yeah.
And it's just like, and I just hear this car coming, but like when you hear like, there's no noise from a Tesla. You can't hear that sneak up on you. So yeah, these radar lights have saved my bacon because, when you think you're alone on the road, you take up a little bit more of the road and you're just kind of doing your thing. And the next thing you know, like you're pissing off the guy behind you and you're like, I don't want to do that. If I knew you were there, I wouldn't be, goofing off like I am.
Exactly.
Taking selfies or, whatever the heck I'm doing. And then, that's the best thing about those radars is just the fact that you can, just gives you a heads up, just like, hey, there's somebody back there.
That's right.
And then the other part, I always tell my athletes this, and whether they do it or not is up to them, is do not ride with like headphones. Over the ear stuff I get too. You can ride, but again, it's just like when you're in a car, the more distractions, the more chances there is to be, to make a mistake or to get in an accident or something like that. So, and I'm not saying that I don't ever do it.
Yeah.
I
Like
do it every once in a while.
Even
Yeah.
the bone conducting ones, that the open ear design and all that stuff that you're talking about earlier, like
Yeah.
those are great. Like you can still hear stuff around you, but how many times you're jamming out to a tune and you're like, oh crap, like you find yourself in trouble real fast,
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I say, like I'm not saying that I never do it. There is some rides where I will listen to tunes or something like that, and during a workout or whatever. It's usually on roads that I know or that I've been on before, or if I do listen to stuff, I do tend to either listen one ear and then the side that's my left ear is on the side that's in towards the road. I can hear a little bit better. I do have my radar on, but again, I feel more distracted. And so like I don't really like to do it on the road unless it's this kind of last ditch effort of, this is the only way I'm going to get my workout in, then
Sure.
I'll do it. But
yeah, I think it kind of goes back to the whole thing. It's like just can't have distractions, which sounds pretty simple and fundamental, and it is. But let's face it, on gravel, we talked about it earlier. A lot of times these roads are, you're just fishing around for the best possible line, and so you may be all over the road, but any type of distraction that takes away from your ability to be alert and able to react, because one of the good things about a gravel road is, if you got to ditch your bike, you can tip it. You can just ditch it and just jump into the hillside right next to you. Like
go right into the cornfield.
Yeah. It's like it's usually a pretty soft landing over there. So I mean, just be ready to have to do that. You never know when something's going to pop over a little hill on you or something like that. And it's one of those things. Again, it's like you just kind of get lulled into the safety because you may only see 3 cars on a ride, but what happens if there's a fourth?
Or what happens if that that fourth one doesn't see you?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like they can't see us. It's not like we're making a lot of noise or kicking up a lot of dust.
That's right.
Like that's what you usually do on a gravel road. Somebody's coming because you can see the dust cloud from miles away, and you're like, oh, somebody's coming from they'll be here in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Because you can see the dust that they're kicking up. But on a gravel bike, you're not kicking up any dust.
No, not enough. So yeah. So yeah, hopefully some of those tips will help people out. I mean, it's and these are some of the things we can talk about at the next gravel clinic too. I know there's a lot of folks out there that, again, we mentioned that there's a lot of people that really want to get out and ride more, but they don't know where the safe roads are, and so they just don't ride at all, or they limit how much they ride because they're concerned about safety. Gravel gives you more opportunities to get out and do some of that, and maybe feel a little safer, but yeah, you never can be too safe. And, with some of the news that you pointed out here, it's some really sad situations, and, you just do everything you can to prevent the next one from happening. So,
yep. Like I say, just be alert, man. Just always be alert. And when you think, and I have been in some bicycling accidents, just like when Danny's talking about, people oncoming traffic's making a left-hand turn. That's when I get pretty nervous. And then I have been overtaken and then turned right in front of.
Yeah.
So it's just like, so anytime anybody passes you and then they're gonna, this person didn't turn on their blinker, they just slowed down for the light, and the light was changing, and so I was rolling to get to the spot, like just get to the front of the car type thing and get ready to take off. Well, she just turned right into me. Because there was no blinker or whatever. It was, and it was a slow speed crash. It was totally fine. Like it was great, but I mean, it's still like could have been worse.
It rattles you. Yeah.
But it rattles you. But you just you have to be, and basically from now on, if it's a bike lane and I just kind of stop where the cars stop. So if I was a car, if there's 3 cars, I don't filter to the front anymore.
Right. That's right.
I just stop wherever I was in traffic. So if I was 3 cars, there's 3 cars in front of me and I'm there, I'm not going to filter all the way up.
Yep.
And I'll just wait and then just ride through, because I have a bike lane. I can just, they can go around me. That's totally fine. And if somebody's turning or whatever, they can turn behind me. That's great. But you don't need to risk, getting cut off. And I know it happens on motorcycles too. Like, I mean, I've seen it. It's just ridiculous. Like, if you're out driving, just pay attention to what's going on around you.
Another one of the things that I take from, and I think this is for road or gravel, But one of the things I took from motorcycle safety that I brought over to my bike safety is it's just instinct. But in the motorcycle safety courses, a lot of them teach you to scan the road, and it's usually like a 3, 8, and 12-second interval. So always be looking at what's 3 seconds ahead of you, 8 seconds ahead, and 12 seconds ahead. And so you're constantly looking at those 3 points down the road. And so you're looking for anything that might be a threat. So ideally, you pick something up that's 12 seconds down the road that, you know, is maybe a car that's approaching an intersection, or a car that's slowing down to make that left turn. And then you just recognize that that's a threat. And that just teaches you to drive defensively and you know, stay engaged, so you don't lose track of, you know, the possible threats that are in front of you. And it's not to get you to ride so you can't have fun. It's just, I mean, that's part of it. Like, I actually enjoy doing that because I use that, and then I start looking at other riders too, especially in races. I start using that to look at other riders, and I anticipate what they might be doing in case if I want to make a move through a line, or like, I know I've seen you do this too, where you come up on a rider and they start to merge over. You got to put your hand on their back so that, you know, they know you're there because they didn't see. So I just think that, again, it's about staying engaged in your ride and making sure that you're picking those threats up and doing something about it. So
yeah. I mean, that's great. Just always scanning. Oh, and the other thing I would like to do, like that I do with the camera, rear facing camera, is sometimes you do feel like you got passed too close.
Oh, yeah.
I do like to look at the thing and just be like, was I passed too close? And sometimes it's just me. I felt like I said, like, if you have that speed differential, they feel a lot closer than they actually are. True. Yeah. And so like that, you know, instead of flipping them the bird and telling them to, you know, to F off and all this other stuff that, you know, you're going to track them down at the end of the road and, you know, beat the crap out of them. Like, you know, like, I think what I usually do, and I don't know if you've seen me do this, but sometimes I just give them the thumbs down. Oh, yeah. Just be like, that's just, you know, you're just like, that's a bad pass, bro. Bad like form. This bad, bad form, just not good. Like, you're just, you know, like, okay, whatever. You're, you know, you're you, I guess.
Yeah.
But I give them the meh, you know, but I also try to do like the ones that pass us really nice. I do try to wave to them and just be like, hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Because, you know, I think that's another thing too, is like, you know, you got to take the good with the bad and, you know, and get that. But, you know, get back to like sometimes like the speed differential is what causes it. Cause sometimes I've gotten mad at some drivers and they weren't that close.
That close to you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so definitely that's why I tend to not get mad at people anymore. I usually give them the head shake if I feel like it was a little too close. I just give them the no, thanks. Yeah. Or if they are too close and they're being a jerk, they get the thumbs down. But I really try not to be like aggressive. I used to be kind of a hothead, but now it's just like I've seen too many times that it's more the speed differential that gets me more upset than anything else. Other than that, like just and I did wave at that one guy that passed in between us with the trailer, and he got the head nod and the full like, "What the hell are you doing, bro?" Yeah.
He earned every bit of that and then some.
Yeah, because I was just like, "Are you kidding me? We're going through a small town in Missouri
on a Sunday morning.
On a Sunday, where do you have to be at noon?
Right
on a Sunday? Like, where are you going? Like." Church is out, like people are just, you know, getting their groceries. And it's not like we were just on the corner. Like we were from the gas station, probably like, I don't know, half a mile, and it starts to turn. And then there's a straight highway out of that. You know, there's multiple options for this guys to get out of here. And it's like you're being inconvenienced maybe for 10 seconds while we round that corner.
That's right.
But he was in a hurry, I guess. He had stuff to do.
Apparently more important than us. So
yeah. So
anyway,
well, everybody be safe out there for sure. Just because you don't see that many people on gravel doesn't mean that it's not any less safe. It's just, you know, the odds are in your favor. And that's one of the reasons we like riding gravel. So be seen, get out there, ride gravel, come to the gravel clinic. If you're in Kansas, you know, I'll make it worth your while. I'm usually pretty funny in person. Well, at least funny looking. So
there's always something to laugh at.
Yeah, there's a lot to laugh at. Trust me. But it's September 15th and the 29th. Right?
Awesome. The 29th. You got it.
Yeah, I think so. That seems
That's
wrong.
15th and 29th. Nope, that's it. 15th and 29th. You got it.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now. Yep, 15th, 29th. Yep. Good. I'm like, man, that seems weird. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, steel trap.
Yep. But all right, man. Suffer complete. Good job. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.